in simple steps to starting your business. And tonight we're going to talk about business concept, your business concept, which is why I asked that question about the chat. So I see a couple people are starting to throw some stuff in the chat. Keep doing that, and then I'll take a look at it. And as Bob does the presentation, we can talk a little bit further about how those businesses might fit or our ideas might fit your businesses. So SCORE is the largest network of small business mentors in the nation, and everything we do is free. So just want to let you know that it's easy to request a mentor, and we're here to help. And especially if you are in the process of starting your business, one way or another, it's great to have a mentor, whether it's a SCORE mentor or another organization or just somebody that you're working with in business. So make sure you make sure that you get a hold of a mentor to help you with your business. Our mission is very simple. It's just to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. So workshops like this, one-on-one mentoring, sometimes two-on-one mentoring, sometimes a whole dozen of people working with one client on mentoring. We bring in the expertise that we need to help you. And our volunteers, in fact, we're all volunteers. We give freely of our time and our knowledge to help other people. And as I mentioned, everything that we do is free. We're a small arm of the, or we're an arm of the Small Business Administration, the SBA. We work with them very closely. They fund a little bit of some of what we do. The rest of the funding that we need, we raise on our own. So I really wanted you to take a look at our website. And I'm only going to do this very briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Bob, because I think it's really important for you to figure out how to find a mentor. And that's pretty easy. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can request a local mentor. That'll take you to a form. You put your zip code in, and it will give you a form that you can fill out. We'll try our best to match what your needs are with a mentor that has experience in the areas that you're looking for. Generally, we will contact you within about 48 hours, set up an appointment, mostly virtual, but some are in person. And we'll get started with you. We'll go through some discovery. We'll try to understand your business, and we will bring in the expertise that we need, as well as our own expertise to help you with your business. The other way you can do this is to browse mentor profiles. You can actually go online and look at the profiles of our mentors and pick out those that fit the types of business that you're trying to start. You can go in here and take a look and just move on from there. And then you can request a mentor directly. So if you do just a regular request, this is what will come up. You put in your name and some contact information for us. The biggest thing and the most important thing is for you to tell us what it is you are looking for, or if you've got a question that you need us to work on. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. And at this point in time, I will introduce Bob. Bob Fedor has been a mentor with SCORE for many, many years and has a lot of experience in not only teaching simple steps, but in particularly in helping businesses start up. So Bob, turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Bob. Yeah, it's 16 years now with SCORE, and this also probably 16 years doing this series, Simple Steps to Start Your Business. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk to a group of clients. Historically, we've done this in person, but certainly before COVID, but COVID forced us into doing this remotely. And right now, it's a little easier to do this in person where we can have a dialogue between the speaker and Bob and I and you all. But so bear with us, and hopefully we can connect with you. Sure. Please use the chat box to ask questions. There's not an awful lot of you out there. I think there's 17 right now, and we'll try to catch your questions as we go. Bob will monitor that.
Yeah, so Bob, before we start, I wanted to run down through the chat that's come in so far.
Okay.
Just so you know who we've got on the line. And so Kim, who was with us last week, just wanted to let us know she's got an idea for an event planning business. And I know you talked to her directly, Bob, in person last week. Antoinette is here. She's a new business owner. Um, she's got You in My Space. It's an LLC, which is also an events and venue business. Interesting. So we've got two events people on the line. Let's see what else we have.
And that happens to be one of your expertise.
Yes, yeah, I've been in the event business one way or another for umpteen years. So on the sales side as well as on the planning side. Um, I've got an AI assistant helping out a person who's taking notes for this particular meeting through AI. Very interesting. Welcome. And let's see what else we have. Somebody is in an early startup idea stage. This is Selena, and she is a project manager, wants to put together professional services to government and other various agencies. Hasn't narrowed it down yet. You'll learn a little bit about how to do that in the next session or two as well. And somebody who was not here last week, but it's okay. If you All of the handout material actually on the next slide or two is available. You can go on and take a look at that, um, and you will receive a slide deck from tonight as well as the recording of this. So this is being recorded, and everybody will receive that. All right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
and you'll have live links in
yeah.
that, right? So
Yeah, so the
they can
next two or
access.
three slides, Bob, I think are live links to the handouts
Okay,
for last session as well as this session. So you're on
go
your
ahead.
own now, and I'm going to be quiet and watch for some of the chat coming through.
Okay, yeah, next slide, Bob.
Here
Okay,
it
here's
is.
the handouts that were given last week. They're live links. For those who weren't there, we will be talking quite a bit about Ann's nursery in the tonight and the following session. So we encourage you to get that and read that.
So
Obviously,
I'm sorry, Bob, and I will be quiet after this, I promise. So when you receive the slide deck, these links will be live, and this is for tonight. Sorry.
okay, no problem. Okay, we'll be going through these templates in the discussion. All right. Last week, we hoped that if you attended, that you worked on a vision statement for your business. If not, we encourage you to get that live link and work on your vision. And if we're in person, we would have you give it, take a few minutes and give your vision statement, but we'll have to skip that tonight. We assume you have a vision for your business, and we'll go on from there. Next slide. Now, our agenda is we're going to talk about how to capture your dream and really other people who have been successful in the same position you are. Then we'll talk about Ann's nursery, both in a little bit of detail, some background on it. We'll talk about AI, how we use it, and you'll see that in the agenda we talk about data, industry data, customer data, competitive data, and what we really are trying to do in this particular segment is for you to get the data, analyze your industry, analyze your business prospect before you spend a lot of money. It make a good judgment should you go ahead with your business. And we'll give you lots of links to resources for getting this data. Next slide. Okay, this is an interesting one. These are all famous people who started with a dream. Bill Gates, Oprah, Sam Walton, Disney. But what I want to talk about is not these people. I want to talk about people in Cleveland, the Cleveland score recently worked with and are now success stories. If you go to our website, Bob showed you how to get to our website. There's 26 examples, recent examples of success stories, and a whole variety. One, for example, and I'll talk about a few of my clients. One, for example, Brian, he started a bicycle shop, stop, a bicycle shop in Independence, and um, very successful. And I'll be using that as a model and talking about how he analyzed some of the uh, questions about his business. And another one is if there's a nonprofit out there, we've had successful nonprofit startups. You'll see a success story, Roger Dorsey on Good Nights, Lorain County. Believe it or not, they're providing free beds to children who do not have beds. And it turns out there's really a lot of kids in our area that don't have beds. They're starting in Lorain County and they're expanding. They're very successful in providing that mission. So that's a successful nonprofit. Another one I'll talk about is a client of mine. If you live in the west side of Cleveland in the Gordon Square area, it's Lake Erie Scoops. It's an ice cream shop. It's a startup. A lady had a passion and she went through all the things we're going to talk about, and it's thriving right now. So, if what is your dream? If there's no obstacles in your way, what would be your ideal business? That's the question. Okay, next slide. Now, business plan draft. We're going to take you through Ann's Nurseries, not only tonight a little bit, but the next, particularly the next two sessions, the marketing and the financial ones. And it takes you through the decision-making process and you get the information for you to make a decision on your business idea and provide you, allows you to get the data so that you can present it to bankers or other investors or even yourself to convince you that this is a good idea that you have. So it gives you the key direction to get started. Now, Ann's Nursery is fairly complex. It has a wide range of target market choices. And next week, you'll hear about channels that almost everybody's business, there's different ways of reaching the market. And usually you can't do them all. And so what Ann's Nursery does is it analyzes her options and which ones she chooses and which ones and why she doesn't. The financials that are given in this case study are relatively complex because it requires a building, an inventory, borrowing from bank. Many of you don't need all these things, but this one includes all of it. So when you look at it for your idea, you take out what you don't need. Now it is basically fictitious, but I was around the time 15 years ago or so when it was developed. And Anne is real. That's not her name. She lives in the Philadelphia area, and she had tremendous background in both school at Penn State and in working in the industry. Uh, so, uh, and there is a real nursery uh, that she developed, and it's thriving. But the data given in this case study is fictitious. It's for example only. Next slide. Okay, getting your business idea. What this means is how do you document it? Get off instead of on a paper napkin, you got to get it into some kind of format that's, uh, you know, serious and has data. And you got to start by asking yourself, what need does my product or service fill? What problem does it solve? What are the features and benefits of my product or service? What is my competitive advantage? What is my business model? Now, I'll answer these questions a little bit with my client on the bicycles shop. Well, uh, what product or service fill. In sort of this Independence, Ohio area, there, there with the retirement of one bike shop, there was no real bike shop, and yet you're near Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and this actually was started at the beginning of COVID, and there was a tremendous desire to use bikes to get outside and to get out of the house. And then what are the features and benefits of his product? Well, it was to be locally available, but he wanted to do full service, sell new bikes. He wanted to sell e-bikes, which was a new category, and he wanted to do a lot of repair work. And he knew, because he had worked in the business, that repair work was much more profitable than selling bikes on a retail basis. What was his competitive advantage? Well, his location was near the national park. It was in the suburbs, and there was nobody really competing probably within 5 miles of him. What was his business model? Well, it started out, this was interesting. It started out as a client. He wanted to do a green field, and we were looking for sites, and he was going to build a building or rent a building and renovate it, etc. Well, what happened is we happened to find that a gentleman wanted to retire and was willing to sell at a very reasonable price. So his model was to buy it, renovate it, use his savings. He didn't have to finance it, and he wanted to focus on service. He wanted people to come in and repair their bikes where he could get more money. So that's just sort of a good example for all these questions. Next slide. Your personal background. Consider, this is extremely important. How do my skills and experience fit with my idea? How risk tolerant am I? How can I modify my idea to fit my experience? Do I have passion to sell this idea to others? Well, let me go to the ice cream store lady. How do my skills and experience fit with my idea? Well, she worked for years as the manager of a defunct ice cream store in that area. And if you happen to know, I think it was Holy Moses, something like that in Gordon Square. And it went out of business, and she lost her job, but she knew the business. And how risk tolerant are you? Well, everybody has to answer that question for themselves. And the lady was a single lady that had some savings, and she was passionate about making very good, high quality ice cream. And so she had a lot of risk. But her problem is she didn't have knowledge of how to fund it. And she needed the equipment, she needed a space. And so that's where SCORE as a mentor came in. We had to work on that issue. But eventually it was very obvious to me she had the passion to sell the idea. And she sold the idea to banks. She sold the idea to the local CDC, who found a spot for him and actually subsidized it. And she ended up, initially, she thought it cost about $75,000. I think she got into the business without more than $20,000. So, you know, because she had a passion and she found a way. And it took her about 9 months to work out from the concept to getting started. Next slide, Bob.
Somebody said it was called Sweet Moses.
Yeah, sweet, not Holy Moses. That Holy Moses was the boat that went across the Cuyahoga River from down in the flats. Yeah, Sweet Moses. Okay, so you got to build your plan, and there's a the next one is the worksheet on the feasibility plan, and we'll go through here's the points. Bob, I think you presented this last week also, and asked people to fill that out, I believe. But not everybody was there. Now, let's start out with, idea feasibility. My product service is servicing an unmet need. Well, if we take our bike uh, shop, there wasn't any in the area. My product service could be expanded to gain additional customer groups. Well, he wanted to go into e-bikes. And he also wanted to expand on repair. And the prior bike shop in Independence did not really do repair. They just sold bikes. Market identification. I know who my potential buyers are. Well, he didn't. It was actually a new location for him. He was from Lakewood, and this was Independence. He had to do research on that, but that wasn't that difficult to look at the dynamics or demographics out there. I have a clear value proposition for my potential buyers. Well, he had been in the business, he knew how to price, and he knew that service was the name of the game. In fact, I think Mr. Cohen here actually bought a bike from him.
Yeah, I bought a bike and I still take it in for servicing. The bike is probably 3 years old, and Brian is delightful to work with. I actually had a crash not about 2 years ago. Brought the bike in and he repaired it for me. So, but yeah, Brian does a nice job.
So implementation, I know what it will take to start my business. See, and we want you to fill in these points from 0 to 10. Five is okay, 10, you really know it. Zero, you don't. Uh, you know what it'll take to not only to start my business, you know what it'll take to run my business. Since he was in the business for 18 years, I believe, 18 to 20, he knew how to run it. He really didn't know how to start it because he had never done that. And that's where his score mentor came in. I understand what it will take to obtain funding. Well, he really didn't need it. He had saved up enough money and didn't really need outside funding. Now, my ice cream lady, she didn't know how to get the funding, and she was unrealistic. And as a startup, it's very, very difficult to get bank loans, and you have to really reduce the amount and provide a lot of your own uh, sweat equity into it. I have a plan to fund my business start. Well, the ice cream lady did not, and we had to really work on funding. That was the main thing we worked on. I'm ready to work hard to achieve my business goals. Uh, this lady had 3 jobs part time to uh, save money. As she's single, and she saved enough money that eventually she basically self financed it. I understand the challenges ahead and have a plan to tackle them. Well, that's what we hope to that you can answer after you really think through what you're trying to do. So here, at your convenience, you fill that out, and hopefully by the time you take this complete simple steps series and work with a mentor, you can have all tens on that, or at least all eights. Okay, now let's talk about how to get the data that you need. Okay, you have to collect data on the industry, on your customers, on your competitors, and you got to look at market trends. Now let's talk about AI. Now, SCORE does have webinars on this subject. I'm briefly just going to introduce it in the concept of a startup business with some suggestions here. It is, if you don't know it, AI is interactive searching that augments human efforts. Let AI do the tedious task. It is wonderful to get a template with a lot of words in that you have to fill in the blanks. Two of the most popular sites are ChatGTP and Bard. There's hundreds of sites out there and more every day. Most are free, but you must create login. Uh, Now, the difference from a typical Google search is you have to write detailed and specific prompts like a conversation, and you continue until you customize for your needs. And I'm going to give you 3 examples in the next slide, but you must validate all outputs, and that should be in caps
Well,
because
so
Go ahead.
So Bob, just a quick comment. I use Chat GPT a lot to help clients put together their business plans, and it actually, I mean, it gives you some generalization. You still want to customize it on your own, but it does help you, and it will walk you through the process, and it will save you a lot of time and work. Same thing with marketing plans, but again,
Yeah.
it's general. It's not necessarily as specific as you need to or would like to have it. You have to add to that to get that.
Okay, the next slide sort of will give examples that Bob's talking about. Now, creating a to get to critique a business idea and to get a business plan, I use validatorAI.com. It's objective feedback on any business idea. For example, I want to start a takeout ice cream shop, which is a real live example. Follow up with specific questions. For example, what competition exists on the west side of Cleveland? What size store do I need? What will my upfront costs be? What will my gross margins be? The answers will be general, more like a checklist. And this works pretty well. But after we analyzed it, we said, well, where do most people buy ice cream? Grocery stores. And that data, that competitive data that isn't really in there. So you got to really make sure that, you may say I have no competitor ice cream store, but there could be a convenience mart right around the corner that sells ice cream or Heinen's. Next one is for a marketing program, I use Chat GTP. For example, this is a really one I've done a couple times. I want a marketing program for a food truck. It'll provide you a 15-point comprehensive plan. Emphasizes that you have to come up with a unique selling proposition. It defines target customers. It outlines your social media, website, and blog steps. Now, that will not be a business plan or a marketing program. That's a outline, that's a template for it. And we're fortunate at Cleveland Score, that we have a couple of people that are extremely expert in this subject of food trucks. And what they will, you could certainly, if you're interested in a food truck, you could really get expert advice on that. But you start out by this general 15-point comprehensive marketing plan. That's pretty neat rather than sitting down and saying, well, what is my marketing plan? And take a fresh piece of paper and start writing. No, you start with a 15-point plan that you have to fine tune. And then finally, the next slide is competitor analysis. Both ChatGTP and Bard work very well to find competitor strengths and weaknesses. You can get SWOT analysis tables, can be generated for your business. Results will be general, but provide you guidance. Now, SWOT is very important for you to self-critique yourself. If you don't know what SWOT means, it's your strengths, your weaknesses, what are the opportunities, what are the threats? And this is not a 2-minute exercise. This is an in-depth analysis that you have to self-critique what you're trying to do. Do you really have strength? What are your weaknesses? What is the opportunity you're trying to take advantage of? And what are the threats to your business? Okay, next slide. Now, you must understand your industry. Now, everybody is in an industry. You may not think it's an industry, but one way or the other, it's a collection of businesses that perform more or less the same activity. And you want to know, what are the growth trends? How fast can a business in this industry expect to grow? What's the profitability? What kind of profit can you expect to make? What are the average margins in the industry? Now, we're going to talk about these in subsequent slides on how to get this data. What trends are going on in your industry? Whether it's demographic trends, economic, global, government subsidies, government initiatives, uh, what what trends are going on that are affecting the industry. And that's vital because every business, every industry is dynamic. It never stays the same. You could look at a competitor today, you could look at a technology today, and tomorrow could be different. And so that you may think you understand it, but you got to keep up with the trends. Life cycle. We're going to talk about in the next chart. It's the chart, the concept of business life cycle. Ideally, you want to choose an industry that's either at an early stage because it's growing fast, or reinvention stage because it's resuming growth. Choosing an industry or a business in the mature declining stage makes it very harder to compete, and I'll guarantee you hard to get funding for. Here's an example of an industry life cycle curve. You see a startup, then you have rapid growth, you sort of plateau, and then over time, because of competition or technology changes, it drops off. And as I said, you could either be in the startup, the rapid growth, or the reinvention stage, where you could participate in a renaissance. One example I'll give to you that I think everybody understands is the auto industry has been around for about 120 years or so. What is happening now? Well, it's being reinvented by electric vehicles. Not only does that mean electric vehicle is an opportunity per se, but charging. I have clients that are taking it, reinventing their business. They're in electrical installation business by focusing on charging stations. I have clients that want to sell other products like e-bikes. That's why is e-bike related to electric vehicles? Well, it's lithium-ion battery. Why is there a reinvention after 100 years? Because a lithium-ion battery was invented basically in the 90s. Now it's being commercialized this last 20 years, and it's being widespread, and it gives you lightweight, high power, good range energy sources, which therefore makes electric vehicle practical, and it also makes e-bikes practical. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of other inventions or uses because a new technology evolved called lithium-ion batteries. And so you just have to, you want to be on either the absolute startup of something new or be in that reinvention stage. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be a new invention. It could be an area where there's no competition, like the bike shop in Independence is basically a startup there, and can have rapid growth. Or take East Cleveland. What if somebody's got guts enough to put a fresh produce store? That's like a startup because there's no local competition. It's a food desert there, and we're working with people on that. So this idea of the opportunity, are you in a rapid growth stage, it is very subjective to the local conditions. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about how do you get specific data for your industry. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the next slide is the NASIC code. That's Bob, the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, the NASIC code, that's the North America Industry Classification System. There's literally almost 1,000 different industries that are classified by the Census Department, and you have to find out what your NASIC code is. This is not for nonprofits. This is for-profit businesses. And, in fact, you need that for your tax returns to the government. So this is one of the most basic things you have to find. And for Ann's nursery, when you find it, she's 111421 nursery and tree production. and there's a description of that classification. Now you're going to have to find yours. We give a link to the census department and how you can do that. But that's one of the first steps you have to do uh, in defining your business. Uh, and the only thing is, there's some businesses have more than one ASICS code because you have more than one products or areas served, and you've got to really research that a little bit to make sure that you get the data for all your ASICS codes. And we certainly can help you with that as a vendor. Now, you also, for your target markets, you got to look at who do you serve? Are you selling consumer? Are you retail? Are you selling to businesses? The bike store sells to consumers. The ice cream store sells to consumers. Uh, we have a lot of products that are not that are business to business, but my examples don't include that. Now, how many? What's the number of people you can or customers you can have? You got to find that out uh, in an area that realistically you could target. Uh, what income level? What's the ability to pay? Uh, what's the demographics that you're targeting? One of the things in the bike store is uh, income ability to pay is pretty broad because people buy it for kids. Most people can afford a bike, easier to afford a bike than a car. Demographics is probably anybody from the age 5 to 75. Doesn't matter your ethnicity. Uh, you got to be reasonable healthy, but there's a huge demographics there. Lifestyle for a bike store is outdoors. The habits of those people is healthy habits. Uh, and there's ways to study. You drill down to get data on, are you in a market that is acceptable to your idea?
So, Bob, if I could throw a
Sure.
comment in, I'm sure there are people on the call that may have service businesses. So they're selling their service to another business that's business to business. And the same kinds of research goes on with that Bob's describing here. The difference is you might be selling a product or you might be selling a service. So you need to look at the NAICS codes as well for whatever service that you're providing.
Okay. Next slide. Again, uh, know your market. We talked about demographics, habits, patterns, but the data sources, the internet today, and I throw in AI as part of the internet, of course, is overwhelmingly the best first step in your data source. You go online, you have unbelievable opportunity to get data for your idea. Then you have census data in government websites, and we'll give you links to those all these websites at the end of this talk. Trade associations are wonderful. Almost everybody, every industry, one way or the other, is involved in a trade association. It may be a supplier to that trade, maybe a user of that trade group, but knowing what trade association you're involved with is very, very important because they collect data on their industry. Uh, and there's a lot of civic and community organizations that can help you with data. Now, on a very local level, particularly in Cleveland, there is CDCs, and that's commercial development corporations. There's, I believe, 24 or 25 in the city of Cleveland, and a lot of the suburbs have them. And they have a database of that they'll share. They know available space. They know who's in what businesses where, and their whole idea is to get good businesses into their communities, and so they'll help you get started. In the case of Lake Erie Scoops, actually the local CDC, Gordon Squares CDC, found the spot and was able to help negotiate a very good lease for the store. They were very helpful. Now, we'll talk about library reference sections later on with a specific link to the Cleveland Public Library. But that's why libraries exist. Uh, they have the information, they have the data, they can help you with trade associations. They can help you, they get paid. Reference librarians get paid to help you get the information. They should be your best friend. Okay, and this is something that Bob will be talking about a lot next week in marketing. Uh, and it's close to my heart. You should spend as much time understanding your competition as working on your own concept. You got to understand what they offer, price, features, annual sales, their size, profitability, what are their market strategy. I had a client that was doing a high-end pizza business or pizza, restaurant. And first thing the client did was went out in an area of about 4 miles or a radius 4 miles, looked at 20 to 30 different pizza places. What were their prices? What were their features? He tried to count how many people went in various time frame, how many cars were there, try to guess their sales because these are small businesses. How big were they versus, mom and pops versus bigger? And then what were their marketing strategy? Usually you get that just by being a customer, uh, or you can get that off their website or both. And what I really recommend is develop a notebook of your competition and write down what you know. And then, because as I said before, the situation's dynamic. Somebody can go into a price war, somebody could go out of business. Just constantly update your knowledge of your competition. And the best data sources is the competitors themselves. You can go in and get their information. They're public companies or their suppliers. Suppliers want you as a customer, so they know what they're selling to other people. Uh, Trade associations we commented on. And now we're going to talk about RMA shortly. And then if your competitors are public companies, there are D&Bs that's done in Bradstreet reports on public companies, and there's other documents, references like Hoover's that have lots of information on public companies. And you could actually read their financial reports. They're required quarterly to provide those to the public. Next slide is continue on competition. Again, who are their suppliers? Are their suppliers, are they willing to work with you if you're going to get in that business? Are they reliable? What's their business risk? Which, when you look at, in general, the issue of business risk, product longevity, you don't necessarily want to be in a business that changes dramatically very fast, such as I wouldn't want to be selling a cell phone, for example, and building it because it changed very fast. On the other hand, the bicycles, selling bicycles, uh, I think people will keep bicycles 20 years, 10 years, 20 years. That's long product longevity. And the beauty there is you can set up a repair business to make sure they come back every year and you get more money out of it. On the other hand, you prefer to be in businesses that don't take a lot of fast change because that usually takes money, takes capital investment in people to continue to change products. The other business risk is the legal and regulatory. Yep. No matter what business you're in, there are government regulations, whether it's federal, state, or local, will regulate your industry. You might have to understand it. And I'll go back to the electric vehicle or charging. My client's in the charging business, and she wants to hire a lot of people and expand. And I said, well, are you sure that business is going to be there 2 years from now or 5 years from now? Are the subsidies that are driving it today really going to be there? And do you want to risk yourself that Congress can pass a law and say, no, we're not going to subsidize electric vehicles anymore? That can happen. And you got to put a risk profile on that. And if you put all your money into doing that, you could be SOL, pretty quickly. So you just got to watch. Every product has risk. Every business has risk because we have a very complicated uh, system of regulatory controls and encouragement of business or discouragements of business. I wouldn't want to be involved in a business that's going out of business, like coal power plants, or there's lots of plastic bags, for example, that's out of phase. Now, go back to researching your competition. Uh, you can go to your competitor and get them to talk, particularly if there's distant. Uh, Go down to Akron or Columbus or Toledo or Detroit or something like that. Find a similar, uh, maybe Erie. Find some competitors, and they'll tell you a lot. They love to talk. You ask mutual suppliers, uh, and uh, you try to uh, talk to the existing customers of your competitors. What do they like? What don't they like? You become a customer. What do you like? What don't you like? Join the trade association, because then you'll meet people in the industry. That's incredibly valuable, particularly in the business to business area. Bob, I think you probably would say trade associations were incredibly important in event planning,
Yeah,
etc.
most definitely.
And nowadays, the competitor websites are all out there for you, and you've got to understand what they're doing. And as I said before, they could change strategy overnight, and you got to make sure you understand it.
Look at reviews also. That'll tell you a lot
Right.
about customers and customer service. So,
Yeah, and if there's a fatal flaw out there.
mhm.
Right. Right. Excellent. Now, income demographics. This is uh, easy to get. It's in the Census Department. You do it by zip code. You can find out if you want to target uh, certain demographic in income, whether it's low, medium, or high. You can find out in any zip code how many people live in that way. And you can prepare. Now, next week, Bob's going to talk about marketing and how you can target marketing. And SCORE is an example. We target marketing in various zip codes where we want to have an outcome, or we want to get new members, or we want to work with a partner in a local area, and we will market via zip codes. It's very, very effective. And that's not only email, but that's social media. And that's could be just handing out leaflets. It could be having local events uh, where you want to find your sweet spot for your products or services.
So I just there's a live link here for census.gov, which is where this data comes from. Just wanted to point that out. When you get your slides, you should be able to find that.
Okay, now this is RMA, and this is not an eye chart. I'm not going to ask you to try to read this, but I'm going to give you some examples here. Um, RMA is research management, no, risk management associates. It's a company that collects all the data from the uh, companies that work with banks in North America. It covers U.S., Canada, and Mexico. There's over 700 industries are analyzed, and I'll guarantee your banker will have this information. And what it does, and again, I don't want you to get eye strain here because it's very difficult to read. It gives for your NASIX code, it categorizes by size, like 0 to 2 million, that's startup. to the larger companies, and it'll give typical financial ratios and information. Perhaps most important, for example, in the nursery business, which this example is from Ann's, you won't make more on the average, whether you're small or large, you're not going to make more profit than 4%. And if you come in with a plan and to your bank and say, I'm going to make 25% profit, the banker is going to take a look at his data and say, now, how are you going to accomplish that when nobody else seems to be able to do that? You won't have much credibility. Now, I know businesses that have 50% PBT. They exist. It just, but you've got to find out your data for your NAICS code. Now, the other things, for example, and then again, for the nursery, and you probably can't see the data, but I looked at it earlier today. They have a very high inventory. A nursery has to have stock, and they have to have a building to put it in. So their fixed assets and their inventory is very high. Now, your particular NAICS code may have low fixed costs or low inventory, but this particular one has high. And how do you find then? The issue is if you have that much fixed cost, like a building, and you have the inventory that you need in a nursery, well, how are you going to finance it? It becomes a very big issue. Now, there's a lot of businesses that don't have a lot of fixed costs, and you don't have a lot of financing to do. So, and they tend to be more profitable, but more competitive. And one of the advantages of having a low margin business is it's in itself, it's a barrier to entry. People don't like to go into low margin businesses. Take, for example, grocery stores. They sell a lot, but they don't make much. And so you don't get a lot of new grocery stores. Same thing, you don't get a lot of new nurseries because there's a lot of inventory and there's a lot of fixed costs. So once you get into it, and you could set yourself up, 4% of a big number is still a lot of profit. And you could be create a lot of wealth. So you just have to understand the industry that you're dealing with from this RMA. This is really wonderful. Now, where are you going to get this data? Because your bank has it and you don't. You go to Cleveland Public Library, the reference library there, they have it for your NAICS. And some suburban libraries have arrangements that they could get it for you, but we know you can get it downtown at the main library. This is something that I've done with a few clients, and it's incredibly eye-opening when you look at what are the characteristics of the business, what are the expectations. Bob, I don't know if you've used it with
Um,
clients.
yeah, I have. And the other thing that RMA has, and especially if you're doing financials, it will also show ratios of, profitability. It'll show ratios of labor to revenue and things like that. And if you're doing a financial plan, understanding and knowing some of those ratios would help. That's something that's fairly advanced and probably could work with a score mentor on figuring that out. But yeah, the RMA is helpful, particularly if you know you're going to go to a bank for a loan.
Next slide.
Next slide. Here we go.
Okay, another Census Bureau survey. Every community is surveyed, as you know, and you can get this is for Washington D.C. And just as an example, if you go down to the bottom, if you happen to be targeting after-school programs for 6-year-olds to 17-year-olds, there's almost 58,000 potential customers in Washington D.C. for you. That's the kind of data you can get out of the census data. And it depends who your target market is. That's why you have to establish your demographics. Same thing if you're going to go to service the the older segment of the population, that data is there. Or if you're a nonprofit and you're targeting the unemployed, that data is there. Or working mothers, et cetera, et cetera. You can mine the census data for almost every business and get very realistic information for your target market. Next slide. Okay, as we said, here's the websites we'd like you to be aware of. The NASIX one, that's a live, that's where you get your code. We just talked about American Community Survey. We didn't talk about SBA, Small Business Administration. They have a wealth of data on theirs on economics. The same thing, Bureau of Economic Analysis. These are government data points. The SEC has, for public companies, all that data. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And probably the easiest one to work with is our SCORE website, because we've targeted new businesses, small businesses in Northeastern Ohio, and our website is dedicated to all kinds of information that can help you. We have, the last I counted, 56 different workshops available for you that are recorded. And you can get them off our website or our YouTube channel. We have, as I said, 26 success stories, and we have general templates for business plans on our website. And you should request a mentor from our website. Next slide. Okay, I think your best friend, beside a mentor, SCORE mentor, should be your local librarian. They'll do web-based searches for you. It used to be called Reference USA, but it's now called Data Axle. That's a wonderful, deep data treasure trove. Here's the link to a webinar. We do, one of our partners is Cleveland Public Library, and here's a live link to a webinar that we did, I think it was a couple months ago, January, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. And you can get all their, it's a very eye-opening what kind of services you get out of Cleveland Public Library. And almost all suburban libraries have relationships with the downtown Cleveland reference library and can get things. Particularly, you need access to that RMA. Yeah. Next
Yeah,
slide.
before you go on, I use Data Axle a lot, and if you know your NAICS codes, you can look up you can look up companies in those NAICS codes almost anywhere. You can narrow it down to a very, very specific zip code, and it will tell you how many companies match whatever information you're looking for. And then it will actually then show you the companies. It'll put profiles of those companies in there. You can develop lists off of there. So it's very, very useful information. And you can even develop mailing lists and things like that from it.
You can ask, why are we telling you to get all this data? Because we want you to make the best informed decision before you spend a lot of time and money. And I can't tell you how many clients, and it's too many, that I've had that come to me too late. I've already bought this franchise, or I already opened this gym, or I already bought space for this retail shop. Now I need help. That's, usually what we're saying. Unfortunately, I end up more often than not saying, well, here's the name of a bankruptcy attorney. No, and you've got a lot of lost money. And then that's a fact that I'm talking about, unfortunately. Now, the good news is this is how to get your data, but you'll be treated next Wednesday by Mr. Cohen, a real marketing pro, on a marketing plan. And then the following Wednesday, 7 o'clock, same time, same place, Richard Brooks will be doing the financial matters, how to get that data into the format so you can do a P&L, a cash flow statement, a balance sheet, look at ratios, etc. And then finally, I think it's May 1st, funding options. We have a banking expert who still works with the SBA as a consultant, who will go through your funding options. And I may help with that a little bit too. I got a little bit of knowledge there. So please take advantage of these workshops and take advantage of our free service to get uh, a SCORE mentor. We exist only to work with our clients. We love volunteering to do that, and we want to have success. You will get a survey to rate us 0 to 10, and why you rated us that way, and how can we do better the next time? Because this is a series and a set of talks, workshops that we like to do probably 3 or 4 times a year because the great interest here.
So thanks, Bob. I just got a chat that says I missed session one. Is it possible to get a copy of it? Yes, it is. If you would kindly send me an email as a reminder, my email address, I can put it in the chat if you want, but I'll give it to you first, is robert.cohen, Cohen, at scorevolunteer.org. And if you hang on 1 second, let me put it in the chat. And let me make sure I send it to everyone. And that looks good. I just sent it out to everybody. Yeah, so send me an email that'll remind me. I'll send it to the person that generally sends these out. You should be receiving a copy of this in the next few days at the latest. So look forward to seeing you next week.
Are there
Um,
any questions?
yeah, I'm not seeing anybody yet. So
So make sure you do your homework.
yeah,
You got fill out the worksheets, get your competition of information, and think about pricing your products and services because that's what Bob's going to get into next week.
yeah, yeah. So you can, if you don't already, if you have not already signed up, you'll likely see an email coming out next week, just before the thing happens. But also you can go on and find score.org local workshops, and you can find this on the calendar there and sign up for it right on our website.
Yeah,
I think,
for the person who missed last week, you will find the last time we did it on our website.
yeah, it'll be
Also,
recorded as well.
it is already recorded.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And
Okay.
yeah, so well done, Bob. Thanks. A lot of
Thank
good
you.
information, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next week. So feel free, sign up, come and see us. Look forward to seeing you again. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.